explaining the meaning of that the Aseres Adibris Torah, the Vayedaber brings a kiyum to the Asara Maimoros. That's the meaning of Leimer. Vayedaber Elokim is kol hadvarim ba'ele. Leimer kol hadvarim ba'ele is kol haTorah kula, including all the chidushim of Torah Shebal Peh, kol ma shetalmid vosik osid lechadish. So all of it is Leimer. It's the kavanah is that it should fuse and become one with Asara Maimoros. I told you there's actually a beer showing the parallel between the Esesfiris and the Asara Maimoros. I'm sorry, that's obvious. I mean, the Aseres Adibris and the Asara Maimoros. I actually saw it printed in the back of the Bible Unauthorized, that famous book by H.M. Moose, which is a must-read if anybody has time one day, and it's a mysterious author, and it's Bible Unauthorized as opposed to the so-called authorized King James Version. And it only goes to end of Parshas Lech, but at the end there's a couple of like essays, and one of them is, I don't have the book anymore, the new editions don't have it. Here's a beautiful beer in the Asara Maimoros and Aseres Adibris. It's based on the, I think, Rabbi Gon and others. I'll call upon him. That is the union of what? Of Leimer. So why? Because creation per se is subject to change. It doesn't have kiyum. And why is it subject to the fluxes of change? And change means being diminished. If something changes, it's diminishing ultimately, because it's not eternal. And although there's periods of growth, but in the bigger picture, it's diminishing, it weakens if it's subject to change, which means it's subject to the things around it that affect the change. As in the famous teaching of the Bechaye, one of the classic Pirushim on Chumash, it's a famous quote, Boring Sidis, ha'tchek mishen noilad, maschil is yabish. A child that is born begins to dry up from birth, even though there's obviously growth, tremendous growth. But in the bigger picture, in a more subtle picture, it's all a process towards decay, or in the words of the Bechayim, this yabish, to dry up. The Gashmis. So it's all subject to change. Why he added later? Because it's the chitzonius harotzim. The ani havaya, the emes havaya la'olam, is in Torah mitzvahs and a yid, and the world serves that. So if the world serves it, then it becomes true and not subject to change and has a kiyum. And if the world doesn't, then it has no intrinsic truth, and therefore it's subject to change. So we have to bring the emes to creation. And how do you bring the emes to creation? The emes havaya la'olam, that's the Torah mitzvah, engaging creation in such a way that it becomes part of the Eibishter's dira, and therefore it's eternal, because it's reflective of him, or more precisely, reflective of his relationship with us. So with this, he was masbir, is in the middle of explaining the pasuk in Yeshaya, v'hoya emunas itecha, chesed Yeshuos, chachma v'das, Yiras Hashem Yi'otzroi, first the Pirush Radak, and now we're in the middle of Pirush Rashi. So the Radak explained that the opening words, V'hoya emunas itecha, itecha means time. So he teaches that your time will be eternal, will be emunah. Your time, the vicissitudes of time will be eternal. How? In the pasuk, through the involvement in Chachma and Das and Yiras Hashem, which are the three aspects of Torah. As you said, Teresh B'Ksav, Teresh B'al Peh, and the Agodas, which engender Yiras Hashem in Torah. So that is what's going to give you your times, they'll make them eternal. And chesed Yeshua, chesed means the strength of your salvations. Your salvations will also be shleimus at all times. You'll always be saved. Not simple pshat. Okay, so itecha means the changes in time. By the way, just thinking ace and zman, the difference is that ace refers to a specific time, and zman is the inyan of time. Hence the 28 itim in Keheles, ace. He brings it here. There's the ace ledaber veis lachshes, a time to speak and time to be silent. 14 of them are positive and 14 are negative. The silent here is meant negative, though there's a virtuous silence, obviously. But there's a negative, so what's the silent? That's the silence of the creation. There's no validity. The words of Vayedaber Moris because he is not doing the mitzvah at that moment, then that moment is eis lachshos. It's a silent moment. It's not a moment that expresses elikus. It's one of the times of Keheles. Zman is the inyan, it's just the whole time b'chlal. Not specific time. L'hoyer. So that's the pshat. So what's going to give emunah? Emunah he teaches here, the Radak teaches loshen kiyum, steadfast, permanent. What brings permanence to you? The vicissitudes of time, and what brings chayes and Yeshua's, Hashem's presence, and therefore salvation is Chachma, Torah, and Yiras Shamayim. Rashi started to explain that. Rashi takes like this. For Hoya and Munas Itecha means it will be that if you will be faithful in observing the times that God sets for you. So the Munah goes on the Yid. If you'll be trustworthy, what times? The various times associated with the produce of the field. Meiseres and Trumas and Shmitten and Yovelis. So what's the Hemshech HaPosek? So then you're blessed with Chayes and Yeshuas and Chachma and Das and Yiras Hashem. The Radak is, it's those things that cause Emunah Sitecha. Emunah Sitecha is the promise, is the blessing. Yeah, how do you get it? Says the Radak through Torah mitzvahs. Rashi, the opening words, as your Vayedaber. Your Vayedaber is Emunah Sitecha. You're faithful in observing the times allotted to you for the various responsibilities and tithes related dafka to the agriculture, to the field. And the schar for that is Chachma and Lashon HaPosek. Chayes and Yeshua is Chachma v'das. Are we clear the difference of the two pirushim? Yes? Yeah? Yankee? Not so clear. I need some reaction. Yeah, this.
Yeah, basics of it, yeah.
Okay, it will help your friends. You all have a Tanakh at home. You have a Tanakh? I could take a picture. So look up Rashi in the Radak and you'll see it, it'll be clear. I'll send it to you when I get back home. And you see, it's a good translation of Tanakh, which brings always the Rashi and the basic Mefarshim, some shorts there. Beautifully put out. Okay. Now, the shaila he was started to ask on Pirish Rashi is, Radak, you understand? Radak is saying that your time will have permanence, meaning Tasarim HaModis have a kiyum. How? Through your Torah and mitzvahs. Chachma, Teshvik Tzav, Teshvik Peh, and mitzvahs, Yiras Shamayim. The question you ask on Rashi simply is that why is it that a person merits Chayes and Yeshua, Chacham, Das, and Yiras Hashem through dafka of all things, mitzvahs associated with the agriculture and the time of all things? And Emunah Sitecha, Rashi says again, Truma, Meiseres, Leket, Shikha, Peya, all the things that a person has to separate and give to the poor, the Kohen, the Levi, Shemitah, Yovel. Why are these things, Dafka, the Pasuk singles out that the consequence is Yeshua, Yeshua is Chacham and Das. She started to explain, number one, that the whole thing of mitzvahs is Kabbalah Soil and Kfiyah, Maise. As you pointed out, that the word Maise actually means the chorus. We pointed out that the actual human being, the absent-minded professor, is really what we all should be. He's in the world of Seichel. Before he does something, there's a million ways to do it. Maybe this way, that what's better. Never-ending ruminations and possibilities. That's the world of the human being. Is the world of Seichel. It explains in Kuntur Samayim. There's many pleasures, but the highest pleasure for the human being ought to be the pleasure of the intellectual pleasure of discovery of ideas of understanding. So to actually stop all of that and do something ought to be an act of discipline, of Maisa. So Maisa by its very nature is an act of discipline. Certainly when you do something you don't want to do. Akaponim, so it's all the end of a Kabbalah soil. He brought the various Maisa Godel, the various sources that convey this, and the head, the foot rather, from the bottom of the body raises the head. All hinted to in Moishe Rabbeinu's words, Sheish Meis Elef Raglei Ha'om, Asher Anoichi Bekirboi. The Anoichi of Moishe Rabbeinu is revealed Dafke in when he's the Raglei Ha'om, getting down with the people on their level, at their lowest level, which is the story here. They're craving for meat, notwithstanding manna, because manna is too ethereal and too spiritual and doesn't satisfy. You don't see it. They wanted the sensual experience, mamash begashmius. So it's their dafka dealing with this level of the yid that the Anoicha Moshe Rabbeinu is revealed. And where is it revealed? Bekirbai to the yid, not like himself, but he connects to I didn't say that yesterday, that the Moshe Rabbeinu connects to the yidden in the deepest way in their most elemental needs. Vayedaber thing. It's not only he connects to them in Torah and mitzvahs and as a guide and so on to one level, but his involvement in their physical life and their safety and security, v'chulu, begashmius and health, which takes up most of his time. But most people come to there before what? Not for ruchnistic questions, but for gashmius in yonim, and it's there that the deepest connection of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Anoichi, the Va'ata Tetzaveh, Va'ata is really revealed. The Anoichi and the Kirboy to the Yid. That's where the deepest bond is forged. Right? So therefore, let's conclude in explaining the Rashi. And therefore, that's the Vayedaber b'chol ma'itcha. Because even the b'chol nafshecha, b'chol eitcha means b'chol Rashi said b'chol midah. Every measure that God meets out, good and even peronius, it's painful and it's physical and here he says the Eibishter, here Moshe Rabbeinu is one with him. This is the deepest avodah. Even brought down the medrash that ma'od b'chol ma'itcha alludes to v'hinei tov ma'od by Ma'aseh Bereishis. One of the perushim is malach hamavis. Why? Because of the transformation of the malach hamavis. That's the ultimate connection. So that's what we're up to. V'zehu, we're up to by the number 69, just 3 lines or so above the number 69. Ha'orah 69, where he has it. Zeh ha'bir b'pirush Rashi. The Pasuk, that's the Rashi's pirush. Again, Rashi's pirush is, if you will be faithful, itecha, in all those mitzvahs associated with time, associated with the field. Why? So what's the beer? Dafka, this avodah of all things in Torah and mitzvahs elicits the ches and yeshuas and the chacham and so on. Because shal yidei mitzvahs leket, that Rashi points out all the mitzvahs associated with the field. Leket, shikha, peya, trumbas, and meiseres. So then, nasa chachma v'das, that brings the reward of Chacham of Das. This is a Maimer of the Rebbe Rashab, which begins, look at Hara 69. It's interesting to understand with Tosfos beer, Rashi's explanation of this pasuk, V'hoya emunah sitech. The whole mind is to explain this Rashi, which is giving the essence of it, and that is as follows: the milas mitzvahs Elokim. What's the mile of these mitzvahs all associated with this, with the Yid's field? By the time it's all over, it's like a fourth of his, a quarter, 25% of his produce. I didn't make the cheshbon. I don't see where this is brought anywhere. But if you make the cheshbon of trumba, which is an unspecified amount, but the average is 1 in 50. But then there's trumas meiser, then there's meiser and lerkat shikha and so on. Then and I guess he includes also, I don't know if it's including shmitim and yovelis. Probably not, but it's a huge amount. It's a huge amount of a person's seed worked very hard, and a huge amount of almost 25% of his produce that he has to give away. So this is iskafia. Lochen yesh behem iskafia harbe. This is a lot of iskafia to dig that deep, write that check. The kiyum who want to keep this faithfully, he worked very hard. But because of his Kabbalah soil. That's the inyan of what? That's according to Rashi, that if you'll be faithful with your time, and it takes emunah to do this. It takes trust. How can I give this away and you just to put the bread on the table? I'm giving away 25%. This is hard-earned money, which I need. So he trusts in the Eibush and he gives it away. Iskafia, and that's what's chosen to represent all mitzvahs, because all mitzvahs have to be done at the foundation with this kind of emunah and iskafia. Like the Gemara says, so to understand the Gemara and the Tosfos which he brings out of 70, you can see Tosfos there, Masech Shabbos. The Gemara brings our pasuk, which the Maimber, I looked ahead, will also bring again with a bit of a touch. But I'll just read you the famous Gemara. Ishlakish said, Shabbos Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, brings our pasuk. What's the meaning of the pasuk? So he said like this: the pasuk mentions 6 things: Emunah, itecha, chaysen, Yeshuos, chachma, and then das. Yiras Hashem Yitzray. He's saying that that's the ultimate, which we'll see in a second. These 6 things, the Gemara says, refers to the 6 orders of the Mishnah. And he goes on to say, Emunah is a Seder Zeroyim. Emunah is referring to Seder Zeroyim, all the agricultural laws. What's this got to do with Emunah? So Tosfos says, it's a 2-line Tosfos from the Rishalmi. He believes in the Chai Elokim, the one who lives forever, and he plants his seed. Now Chassidus asks the question, he's not going to this in the Maimah here, but Chassidus asks, that it takes emunah? Mele, as we're teaching it here. Here the emunah is because after he worked so hard, he's giving it away. That takes emunah. Hey, I need this. But Tosfos, the Maimah does not bring Tosfos, just the Ha'orah does. But it's related. It's related. What's the beauty of Tosfos? The Rishalmi, that you need emunah to put the seed in the field. You put a seed in the field, it grows. It's teva. So the Chassidus brings that this is one of the indications that what's teva? Teva is just as miraculous as any miracle is. It's only that it just happens continuously. So it gets a law and an expectation. But why should it happen? Why does nature behave the way it does? All science does is tell us this is the way it behaves, and we can expect it to behave that way the next second as well. Like I mentioned to you, my little example, if you ask a scientist ultimately what's going to happen, ultimately, what's going to when I let go of this? The answer is it'll probably fall. But it's going to answer the word probably. Because based on observation of gravity for the last thousands of years, we can expect that it's going to fall probably. But why should things react and affect each other this way? At the core level, especially now with quantum physics, it's just a metzius, but there's no explanation for it. I think I've mentioned 100 times, just because I heard a lecture once from Dr. Brower, so I became a big chacham. He spoke in FDC in the early days in quantum physics. And that is that the subatomic level, it's chaos, and it translates into order, all things. And there's no explanation how it goes from toyo to tikkun. Pasha Begashmis you're seeing played out under the subatomic microscope, however they view things, elikus, and a constant creation. Now, those before quantum physics, the belief was that the world is an orderly clock, and that's it. So you figured it out, and that's how it is. But now they understand that at a much deeper level, it's chaos. There's communication between particles faster than the speed of light, which was thought unimaginable, which means beyond time. And from chaos, it translates, somehow they call it a force, that's the word I remember hearing, into order on the atomic structural level. This is happening continuously. It's kinetic, it's alive. The inanimate object, the stone, the water, the gas, the salt, the liquid, at this core level, there's this tremendous energy and speed, faster than the speed of light, but communicating between quarks, whatever they're called. I only understand it a little because of Chassidus, that's why I understand it. So that's the Maimin. And Munas will say this, the Jew recognizes, Maimin is not saying this, I'm just telling you this elsewhere. He puts the seed into the field, it's going to grow, right? Because that's the Eibishter decree. That's why, not because there's an expectation or an entitlement. So that's Emunah. The Gemara goes on to say, we'll just read the rest of the quote because you're going to bring it later. Chaysen say the Noshim. Strength refers to Noshim. What strength got to do with Noshim? I have my own beer, but he brings here from, looks like the Marsha. The word Chaysen also means an heir, as someone who inherits you. So that's marriage. Will they explain also that in intimacy, the person gives of his seed, this is the deepest strength, as he brings the Shulchan Aruch even, that it could deplete a person or it could empower a person. A component, that's Chaysen. Yeshua's salvation is Nezikin. If you follow the laws of Nezikin, so you'll be saved from damages, from being taken advantage of, etc. Chochma is Kodshim. Now, there's no version that doesn't explain it why. Yeshlema, Chochma is Bittul, Kodshim, sacrifice, surrender to Hashem, maybe. Das is Taharis. Uli Yeshlema, the Rambam brings Molor, it's Deus Hashem, because the whole world will be submerged in Yemei Hadas HaTorah, in the waters of pure knowledge. Das means to connect, then the knowledge will be such that we're connected to the on the deepest level. And that's Tahara, the world will be purified. Uli Yeshlema. And I'm just offering my own little explanations here, but just interesting to conclude the Gemara. This is all the Lakish is teaching. I feel the fear of God is in the Eibishter storehouse. What's most significant to the Eibishter is not your learning, but what justifies it all, elevates it all is Yiras Hashem. That's a component, Pashup Pshat in the Pasuk. Now, back to the Maimer, and Pshat in the Gemara. So this is Vahoya Emunas Itecha, this is Emunas Itecha. So Rashi explains Itecha means referring to the various times and the various obligations of the tithe in the field. Why is this singled out? Because it's a quarter of his whole labor is invested in that, and 25% he gives away. And he does so Emunah because he trusts in the Eibishter. As the Gemara says that Emunah goes on. Say the Zroya. But continue. So singling out the meaning of the mitzvahs involved with the agriculture, because of why? Because that's what brings out the Emunah V'yid, the Skafia, Dafka, these mitzvahs. Similar to tzedakah, as he goes into say Vayedaber, similar to what he says in Tanya, and explaining the Ma'aleh tzedakah, the Gemara says, that tzedakah is compared to all mitzvahs. Why? Because you invest all of your koyach in making a living, and you give that away, you gave yourself away. Every other mitzvah elevates a certain part of you that's engaged in the mitzvah. Which part of you is engaged in the mitzvah? Everything, the whole koich, it's halacha. A person has to serve the whole koich. Not with pnimis, that's my nervous, but the whole koich. You learn that from Yaakov. When you're working for somebody else, when you work for yourself, you don't have to be told that. When you're working for somebody else, you have to work the whole koich. And you give away to tzedakah, So you're elevating all of yourself, similar to we're talking about here, the agriculture, these mitzvahs, and that was the panos. The more of the clothes are mitzvahs, the B'Shem Tzedakah and Rishon, because all mitzvahs tzedakah. Shezel lefi sheyesh ba'in iskafia b'yosef. All the mitzvahs, which one hurts the most? It's tzedakah. That's what counts. So the Zeh, now he explains an interesting thing. Zeh gam ki ma shekvi is what he's following, yeah. And that's why the Yom Tovim, the establishment of the Yom Tovim, which are called the Sholish Regolim, I'm not sure why he says that. Does it mean to bring out the regel? Because as he goes on to say, the Yom Tovim are connected with the field, the lowest part. I'm not sure why he has to add Shnikroim Sholish Regolim. It could be. As you said before, Moishe Rabbeinu, Sheish Meis, Regel Alfei Om, Raglei Om Sha'anechi B'Kirba. Maybe it's the illusion here. Akoponim, why is it called the Regel? The Pashtus, because that's people walk to Yerushalayim in the three pilgrimage, the three Yom Tovim. So all of them are Tluyi, B'Moyed, the Gemara Tavur, they're all connected with the cycle of the growth of the crops. The Pesach of Aviv, so means spring. Because of his Chag HaMitzvahs Tishmo, you should observe Chag HaMatzis, L'moyed Chodesh Aviv, the time of the month of Aviv. So Rashi explains the word Aviv, which we now generally call spring, but Rashi explains Shatvur Mismameles Ba'aviyah, Be'iveha. That's when the grain is full in the stalk. That's what Aviv means. Shavuos, of course, is Chag HaKotzeh. That's beginning, it celebrates rather, the end of the harvest season. beginning is Pesach, but the very beginning of the harvest, because the first grains start to ripen, the barley. So now it's the end. And the Torah calls it Chag HaKotzeh. And the Sukkah, there's a little Lashon HaPsukim. Chag HaOsif, Sukkah celebrates the ingathering of all the fruit, the grain, and even the fruits. Why is it the Torah is connecting the holy days with what? With the field, with the process of the crops ripening? Because this is the Inyan. The Sholish Regolim is about going to the Beis Hamikdash. You have to see and be seen by God, and the Karbonis, the Karban Oila, complete bittul. You're going to the Beis Hamikdash, transcending the world. And you're there for a sustained period. Sukkot and Pesach and Shavuos, even for a week, to be in the Karbonis after Shavuos. So why is it connected to the field? It's opposite. The answer is because the holding of bringing of the Torah is all dependent, revealing Torah, and the giving of Torah is all totally through keeping mitzvahs begashim, and dafke in a way that it takes Kabbalah's oil and takes effort. And what's that? That's in your hard-earned dollar. This is all connected with the process of ingathering his crop, and he gives it all away. He gives away. He's giving it them out. That's the tachlis. So this is the conclusion of Rashi's Pirush. So your emunah, your bittul, your Kabbalah's oil in the mitzvahs of itecha, the demands made on you at every turn to give. So because of the great Maila Diskafia, and now you get, this is the promise and the reward. This is Mamshich Torah. You start to say that I'm Shach of Torah. This is a Torah Leben. This is bringing Torah into the world. Chachma Das and Chesed Yeshua is Chachma Das Yiras Hashem. So now putting the two Purushim together of the Radak and Rashi. Okay, we'll stop here. I don't want to rush this. Like tomorrow morning, friends, it's a big challenge at 6 o'clock tomorrow. I hope we'll see everybody. Let's just start a little bit. Then we'll revisit the connection of the two Pirushim. Now we'll understand that the two Pirushim Kshurim v'shayochim zelazeh. First Rashi and then the Radak, even though he brought the Radak first. He brought the Radak first because the Radak, the Pirush, was expressed what Al-Maimir is saying, that the kiyum of Asar Mamoris is in Traseres Adibris. But how is it affected? How do you do that? That's Rashi. Rashi brings to the Radak Pirush. So first he brought the Radak, behemshech to the flow of the Maimir, then Rashi, and now puts the two together. First has to be Skafia, Kepirish Rashi, that's Rashi's Pirush, it's through these mitzvahs of tzedakah and so on, that is what makes Chachma V'das Torah true Torah. So now that the Yid is bringing Yiddishkeit and Torah into the world because he's observing Torah mitzvahs in a way of Skafia, that now comes the Radak Pirush and Monasitecha, that your time, this man and time, becomes a Munah forever. Nase Kiyu Gam Kimba Olam. Yeah, we'll finish it. The Pirush Radak Shalidei Chachma V'das. It's through. Radak says the end of the pasuk is what gives the reward of Monasitecha. Nase Kiyum Hasholem Vayishu B'chol Azmanim. You get permanent peace. Again, where to get the word, I don't know. It's not the pasuk. But Yeshua, salvation at all times. In other words, the kus is revealed in Zman. That's the Saras Adibris that Peil Akim and Saras Amoris. But how do you do that Saras Adibris? Rashi told us that in a way of Iskafia. You do it in the way of Iskafia, then it's Peil, the Radak Pirush, then it's Peil Akim in the world. Because here a Yid is drawn. Torah by Pnimis, like I said before, even Torah can be done by Chitzoni. So by Vamidah, if he's not doing B'chol Ba'itcha, if it's all Eis Gecheshbon, then he doesn't go beyond his comfort zone. It's not going to be Peil the Inyan. What Peils the Inyan is when it's B'chol Ba'itcha in Torah. Rashi, Dafka the mitzvah of Teruah, Iskafia. That's Peil the Inyan of what? The Radak and Monasitecha. Peil Kiyum in the world, because he's Megala the Pnimis HaKavon. Shinimshechas Lamata K'meishi L'mayla. Torah is drawn down here without Shinoi, the way it is. Lamata, he brings it down, Kanal Barucha, and brings a permanence to creation. Okay, we're clear of Pirush Rashi is the how, and the Radak is the result. The how is Iskafia, and the result is a permanence to everything that you do. It's meaningful, it's permanent, it's forever. That the vicissitudes of time are forever. Every moment is forever. Is there any greater joy than that? Is there any greater joy than that? How much of our life otherwise is just getting to the next thing? So when are you there? But the great gift of Torah mitzvahs is, if it's done in this oifen, total devotion to the moment, living the moment, pnimius, is every moment is everything. There's nothing more whole than that. That's the deeper meaning of Torah was given. And Torah last says shalom ba'olam. Torah was given to make peace in the world. But every moment is shalom, is whole and complete. Every moment is a moment of connection to the Eibishter. And in essence, that's true of every moment, if that moment is the way it ought to be.